Like, what do you really believe about your future? Get down with that. Get your arms around that. Get real with what do you really believe is possible if you put together the right type of work, the right type of team, the right type of resources. What could happen?
Dr. Mike, we're back again.
I'm so stoked to be here with you. This is one of, I wouldn't say it's like a favorite, but I just relish the time that I get to do this with you. It feels really fun for me. And I just love the engagement with, our community members and how you and I go through some very complex ideas. And so I love this part of our podcast. So thank you for being here again.
Well, thank you for having me. I feel the same way. I look forward to these days. I really do. So
good. And you've got something to celebrate.
Yes, I do. I'll be launching a new podcast myself called Keep Me Different.
How about it?
So looking forward to that.
Yeah. And so Keep Me Different, tell me more about it.
Keep Me Different. Keep Me Different is geared towards that underrepresented group of, I like to call them Black nerds, right? They're not athletes. They're not super cool people. They love anime, right? Their interests lie in things that you wouldn't think their interests would lie. So I think that group is so underrepresented. I'm part of that group. So
very
cool. I want to give them a voice. And
so is it going to be interview based? Is it more scripted and you're going to tell some stories? Are you going to?
At times it'll be interview based, but it's just going to be me and my co-hosts. So
and who's your co-host?
His name's Garen Strong and Michelle Marquez. So
there you go.
Two brilliant people that I'm looking so forward to working with. So
it's cool when you're like doing things with people that you respect and they bring an energy and like, it's really fun to be able to do that. So
100%.
So finding wherever podcast, you can find it wherever podcasts.
Yeah, it'll be on iTunes,
Yeah.
YouTube. So yeah, anywhere you can find podcasts, you'll find Keep Me Different.
Why that name? It's really cool.
A friend of mine, we were working out in the gym and, we crack jokes. It's early in the morning. We're, busting each other up. And I said something to him because he had some shoes on. He actually had some, I forgot, they're popular shoes, Hokas. Before Hokas became popular, he had a pair of Hokas on. And I was like, man, what are you wearing? Why is this guy always coming to the gym dressed weird? What are those? And he was like, man, whatever, man. I pray God keep me different. And when he said that, I was like,
there's something to it.
I love that.
That's cool.
I love that. So
cool, man. It's really fun. So I'm wishing you the best success and hopefully our community goes and checks you out. Keep me different.
Thank you. Keep me different. Thank you so much.
Cool. So we've got a bunch of questions today.
We do.
And I never know kind of how these are going to go. So I'll just kind of give you a preamble is that I'm kind of in a mood.
Oh, okay. Well, let's do tell.
Yeah. Like there's just like an energy where I'm inspired by my wife to be a truth teller and like a fire breather. And so I'm wondering how she lives her life that way. So I'm just wondering how this one comes out.
Oh, so I'm excited. I like you in the mood.
Let's see how this goes.
Let's try to ride this wave.
Sometimes I'm really contemplative and thoughtful, and this one feels a little bit more direct, maybe.
Oh, so we about to get
I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for that. But all right. So hey, let's just start it off. This is a question from Melanie. Melanie says, in your experience working with teams, what are the most common misconceptions leaders have about motivating their teams? And how can understanding the true drivers of motivation lead to a better team performance and morale?
So this question's about motivation. This is a little tricky actually, because most people have never studied motivation. And so when I hear the question, I go, well, how sophisticated is the person or the folks that I'm answering the question for? How sophisticated is their understanding of motivation? It's actually complicated. I'll just start at the basics and then add a couple layers and tell me how we're going here. Okay. So most people think about internal and external. So internal meaning the stuff that happens inside of you, external outside of you, obviously. And they think that those are kind of the two main levers to think about motivation. Motivation is actually, like I said, very complicated. And it's because it involves all of the history that a person's experienced, filtered down to a set of core beliefs, filtered through some sort of incentive, a la reward, that impacts their drive. And so we're talking about, this is why it's so complex, That's why it's like, I'm sorry, complicated, not complex. The human is complex. What I just described is very complex, but motivation in of itself is complicated because we need to understand a lot to understand how to help somebody move closer to where you would hope they would move. There's no such thing as amotivation, non-motivation. That doesn't exist. We are always motivated towards something. It just might not be the thing that you want. Meaning that if your child is playing video games on the couch all the time, you say, God, he's just not motivated. He's motivated for something. And so understanding what I just said, belief systems drill down all the way into like, how does this internal world of mine help reward or drive me toward a certain set of behaviors? That's what we're talking about. It's far more complicated than just internal and external. But let's break this up into 4 factors, and then I'll introduce a model. So 4 factors would be internal, external as drivers, and then intrinsic, extrinsic as rewards. So internal, external. Internal is when somebody is internally driven, they are what we would call self-motivated. You don't need to, make sure you set your alarm now. That's an external driver. When somebody outside of you is helping create conditions for you to get up and do something. Those that are internally driven, they within themselves have the wherewithal to get going. Okay. Internal and external. External speaks for itself. You need some sort of external stimulus to get you going. And those are drivers. Intrinsic and extrinsic. So intrinsic is the reward system. Same with extrinsic. So intrinsic reward systems are when you love the way it feels to unlock something. When you can put things together and you're like, oh, that's how this works. Or, oh my God, I just really want to figure this thing out. That's an intrinsic reward when you have it, that sensation of something coming together. And then the extrinsic rewards are exactly what you would imagine. Money, recognition, celebration, all that stuff that happens outside. So that would be a basic, like know those 4 levers. And we used to think that we wanted people to be internally driven and intrinsically motivated. The truth is, a combination of all 4 is really nice. The trap is when somebody is externally driven. So you need to help them get up and go and do something. And they're extrinsically rewarded. Pay me. That is a combination that is really difficult to work with those people. You have to kind of tap their shoulder a lot and hold a carrot out in front of them to get them going. I don't like working with those folks. I'm not interested in it. I understand, though, that extrinsic rewards are meaningful and important, and they are important drivers. And I want to work with people that are like, most of the folks I work with are highly driven and are interested in rewards. Okay, so it's like on a scale of 1 to 10, they are the 10 out of 10s on all 4. So you say, how does that work? Well, they structure their life to have the right external drivers, but they are equally internally driven. So they don't need the external driver to take care of them, but they structure their life so it's not all resting on just their internal drivers. They get up, they're self-driven, they know what they're about, they know what is important to them, and they get it going. And they've got the external drivers to help support that when they're feeling a little tired. I am far more interested in people that err on the side of internal and intrinsic because it's like they're an adult. They know how to get going and they love that feeling of unlocking. It doesn't mean they shouldn't get paid. It doesn't mean that I don't want to get paid and I don't want, the extrinsic rewards. It is understanding how to put those in the right place to help another person become a version of themselves or become just a little bit better towards the things that you're agreeing on doing together. So as a leader, understand those 4. When you can help a person understand the intrinsic rewards, like the love of figuring something out, the whole game gets a little bit easier. So when I'm looking to bring people on to take a role in a team or be a member of a sport team, I am looking for the internal intrinsic, but understand that the external extrinsic are also important. So I'll pause there because there's a lot happening, and then I want to introduce a model that might be able to help it.
Because when I think of the all 4, like you said, the people that are just firing on all 4 cylinders, I think that's a small percentage, right? That's a gift. So if you have a person that you need to motivate, how do you get them to fire that off? Or
Well,
would you even want to?
Yeah, I don't, I'm probably the wrong person to ask this question for, because most of the people I work with like are on tilt. Like they're really getting after it.
Yeah.
And I understand the question is more about how to lead people. First and foremost, understand the levers. Okay. And then those are just the levers. As a leader, a modern leader understands the application of good psychology. And the modern leader is not just using levers, but they're understanding what precedes behaviors, which is the thoughts and the uniqueness of that person. So if you want to help somebody be motivated, make sure that, like the first rule of mastery, the book title that I did was basically I'm saying the first rule of health is to put down the poison that you're drinking every day. The first rule of mastery is to stop worrying about what other people think. It's like a poison. The first rule of motivation would be to understand the person. Second rule would be to make sure that some of the things that might be clogging up their drive are not clogging it up. Like, is there something happening at a mood level? Is there a health issue that they're working with? Is it a small phase or window that they're in a grief window? Or are there things happening there that would certainly make sense to shape shift somebody's motivation? Okay, that's cool. Like, just understand the person. The next is there could be some biological stuff going on. Hypothyroidism. So we're talking about, how do I help somebody be more motivated? Is it a thyroid issue? Is it a sleep issue? Is it a grief issue? Is it a trauma issue? Like, we can't just kind of throw stuff around, like, here's the 4 levers, manipulate one of these 4 and you'll be good. Modern leadership is to really understand the person that is trusting you to guide them, trusting you that the horizon that you see is a worthwhile pursuit. And in doing that, help to unlock the goodness that rests dormant inside of them. And when you can do that as a leader, this child's play of internal, external, intrinsic, extrinsic is very simple. And there's an art to that part, which is like, if you know somebody is highly extrinsically motivated, you have to keep money out in front of them. As soon as they're paid, what happens to their motivation?
Yeah, it decreases.
Now you don't have anywhere to work from. That's why it's really dangerous. But it can be wonderful if the model, the financial model or economic model, works properly. Like, look, when you do A, B, and C, there's a lot of money on the other side. And when you do D, E, and F, there's even more money. And X, Y, and Z, there's a lot of, that can keep going. And you see that in some of the financial services, and you'll see that in some of the business structures that people are designed. But anyways, that's the thing. And then the model is self-determination theory, which is, I think, one of the under-celebrated, more powerful models in psychology. And so it basically is talking about, to help somebody work from the inside out, to have that intrinsic drive, is to make sure that 3 components are in place. The first is they understand, and maybe you recognize, their competence. So you put them in a power lane. You make sure that they understand how to treat themselves and talk to themselves, where they're like, yeah, I'm actually pretty good at this thing. This makes sense. I can do that. And they've got this way that they feel that sense of competence in their life. And when you can highlight as much as you possibly can when somebody's crushing it. The best type of reinforcement for behavior is 3 very simple words. And I learned this from one of my colleagues, sports psychology colleagues for the United States Olympic Committee. That. Yes, that. So when you can capture the good and you say, that right there, that. Yes, that those 3 words are like this reinforcing mechanism for people to know what good looks like, to be able to take a moment and clock it. And then so they can figure out how to put their mind and body in that shape again. That, yes, that. Okay, cool. So competence is what we're talking about here, helping somebody feel competent. First and foremost, help them understand how to feel competent within themselves before you spend all this time and energy just pointing it out to them. So it's dual, internal and external. Okay. The second is autonomy. So when somebody feels that they're competent and they've got this sense of autonomy in their life that I choose. I don't get whipped around by the external world. I don't have to do what you say. I've got a sense of autonomy on how I'm going to design and choose my life. That requires giving lots of space for people to make decisions. And where many leaders struggle in fostering autonomy is with that, they're not sure how to create accountability. So we want autonomy. Humans crave that sense of autonomy. And sometimes we want to hide from accountability. So as a leader, if you can create that space for people to make the choices in their life, to have a sense of autonomy and to flex those choices and decisions and to feel the consequences of them, favorable or unfavorable, easy or difficult, that is a very powerful way for people to say, I want more. Let's go. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Because they're not being told what to do. They're working from the inside out to make the little micro bets or big bets in their life. So that's autonomy. And the last is relatedness. So when people have a sense of relationship with themselves and other people, they tend to feel pretty good about being driven. And so competence, autonomy, and relationship is the model that I work from. If I'm trying to understand another person, I want to understand their sense of their competence. Do they have autonomy in their life? And what's the quality of their relationships? And that's kind of like that's the broth for me. And then the levers are the four that we mentioned earlier. But all of the stuff beforehand, which is the uniqueness of the person, is what really drives motivation for a person.
Wow. Man, it's funny because this question Melanie's asking about, how to be a good motivator and leader, and listening to you talk about it, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it makes me think that you have to be a special individual to be a leader in every single way.
I like that. I mean, to do it really well, part of leadership certainly is having a sense of H3, Horizon 3, like what's over those bunch of hills.
Yeah.
And to create such a compelling, alluring future state that we are working towards and having this sense of credibility. So not just like, yeah, over there, but like a grounded, like over there. And then people are like, oh, I see that too. And have some sort of trust that they can feel that you don't know exactly how to get there, but that is over there. That is part of leadership as well. But I'm working from this benevolent, and I think you're feeling it too, like this very special way. You can lead in lots of ways. Bin Laden was a leader. Mussolini was a leader. Hitler was a leader. Yeah. The dark triad is a real way to lead, and the dark triad is made up of narcissism. It's really about them. Machiavellianism, where there's always a secondary story, and it's slippery, and they're very charismatic. They tend to be very alluring people to want to be around, but it's for them, and it's for their gain, and it's slippery. Okay, and then sociopathology, which is, you get those three together. We know it's sociopathology. They don't feel pain. Yeah. And so when, I don't know, someone else is in a lot of pain, they tend to be like, I don't get it. Like, that's not a big deal because they don't feel pain themselves. So when you get those three personality traits together, they can be captivating as leadership. It does not mean it's good for the people. Yeah. It does not mean it's good for, many other than maybe people close to that inner circle of theirs. But it really is all about those people. So you can lead. My point is, you can lead in lots of ways, benevolently, or not so much. The dark triad. So I wouldn't be as naive to say that you have to be a good person. But if you care about the condition of people, and maybe even add the condition of the planet, you'll have a sense of what is really the broth that is driving people. And if you can take time to understand that, and you have some sophistication of those four levers and at least a base model, you'll be onto something.
Do you think a great leader understands the responsibility?
Oh, no, I think most leaders are just kind of, they like the power of it. Oh. Yeah, they know that you move up the org chart and you get paid more and you don't have to be told what to do. You get to kind of set the conditions a little bit.
Wow.
It's a little bit of a cynic approach.
Wow, I did not expect that answer. Wow.
Yeah. What did you think?
I thought you were going to be like, yes.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think that there's something very primal about wanting to, primal in humans, and that certainly would tickle that.
No.
You don't really like this, do you?
No,
Yeah.
no. I love this.
Oh, you do?
This was a great, I really did not expect that answer. So,
yeah, I do wish when I look at leaders and I'm like, oh yeah, like look at this group of people here.
Yeah.
Like benevolence, amazing investment. They care about me. I think most people care about themselves more than others.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work to get past that reflex for self-survival. The world is not set up for your safety or my safety.
Yeah.
It's quite hostile. And so it is important to know how to take care of yourself.
Wow. I want to stay on this question, but I will ask you.
Yeah.
Okay, I got one more question.
Yeah.
So why is it then, I'm not asking you all these questions. I know this is an unfair question, but why is it then we put our lives in the hands of leaders? Why do we lean towards them? Why do we look for them? Why do we search them out?
It's probably we don't really trust ourselves. We're afraid to take the shot. And some people are better at what I just described.
Yeah.
Some people have this ability somehow to see H3, Horizon 3. Some people have the ability that, based on their unique upbringing, part of leadership I didn't talk about is they know how to muster their internal resources to get something done and to activate their external resources. And that's a skill. Not everybody has that skill. Some of us don't think H3, and some of us don't know how to get their external toys and tools and resources together and access their inner resources to get something done. So it takes practice. And by the way, leadership is not something that is like you don't say, O'Neill, you are now a leader.
Yeah.
Like you have to earn that in some kind of way. And it tends to be by having the ability to muster resources, have clarity of the future, and to have a sense of like energy to get some shit done. And that takes time to cultivate.
Yeah.
And so why do we defer? Because maybe somebody's just further along, And I do think though it's, Icarus, when you're a little bit closer to the sun, you can kind of get burned up a little bit too. So leadership does have more exposure, potentially more reward.
This was a great start to the show, Dr. Mike. Great start to the show. All right. So let's go on to our next question. This is from Valentina. In my company, we label a specific set of individuals as leaders. Oh, another leader question. Okay. I'm actually one of them. In my experience, everyone leads or has the potential to lead in various capacities, depending on the context and their unique strengths. I don't buy the traditional narrative of leadership. It feels self-important. No. Wow. What is your view on the term leaders inside companies?
That's cool. I mean, I think we talked a bit about it just now.
Yeah.
There's so many definitions of leadership. It's a little crazy making. And the way that I've thought about leadership for a long time is that the inner light shines so brightly that people are naturally attracted. And then that doesn't quite hold up enough because there needs to be some direction to it. But when if you've been, and I'm curious if you have, been around somebody that's got such a vibrance, such a zest for life, and you just feel like, I want to be close to that person. That's amazing, quote unquote, energy, that there's an attraction that can come. Those are the leaders that I'm most interested in being around. And when you add an H3, they're able to see around some corners and over some horizons to say, over there is something very special worth fighting for, working for, getting after. That combination feels really important to me. And then I think great leaders also know how to be great followers. So knowing how to lead and follow is materially important. If somebody is presenting like they got it all together, like they know exactly how to do it, I start to go, whoa, I think I'm being sold something because there's no part of me that thinks I understand how to get all of whatever done. And so as soon as someone, earlier in my life, I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, good. I'm glad they see it because I don't. And now I know that nobody really sees the whole thing here. I think one of the great leaders of our time, and he's controversial, Elon Musk. I go, look what he's doing. I think he's off his rocker a little bit. I'd love to meet him.
Yeah.
I would love to meet him. But I would also love to meet Da Vinci, Michelangelo. And I don't know if I can put him in that category. It's a pretty big, space. But look what he's doing.
Yeah.
He can't know exactly how it's all going to go. And so even if he's low on trust, which I don't know, he certainly has an H3 and he's ability, and he certainly has a way to gather resources. And he's doing some really horizontally, he's doing some amazing things across many verticals.
Do you think all leaders have just insane, unmeasurable audacity?
There's an unreasonableness to the leaders that are changing what we understand. And I've felt that in the backcountry, in action sports, and people that are doing things where their lives depend on it getting right, being right. And there is an unreasonableness to think that Horizon 3 image that you have that no one has ever seen before or accomplished is possible. So I love the unreasonableness. I want to be unreasonable.
Yeah.
I don't want to be safe and reasonable all the time. And that makes it a little dangerous. There's a phrase that one of my special teams operator from, I won't say what division, those that lead bleed.
Yeah.
And so I am afraid of that.
Yeah.
I don't want to bleed out. But when you have such a compelling idea, and I am far less interested in the ambition for achievement, I am more interested in the ambition of being. And so that's what the H3 looks like for me. What is the state of being that we might be able to influence where people sweat the most? And that's at work. Yeah. I know you were thinking a dirty mat. There's not a dirty mat in this case.
That's considered work.
Yeah, it is for sure. But most people don't get on a clean mat, any mat, right?
This is true.
Talking about the martial arts, right? So most people spend most of their time at work. I think that we're in a position to fundamentally change the way people work by infusing the application of psychology in a simple way inside the rhythm of business. That's where we're pointing our noses at finding mastery. And I mean, think about the millions of people that work every day in a 8 to 6. They take 2 hours off to, go to the gym, be with their kids, eat dinner, whatever, and then pick up emails at the end of the night. It's a fundamental different way that we're working, and it is requiring a fundamental different set of skills to do it. And I can't talk too much about our partners that we're moving in this direction with, but we just might have a chance.
Yeah.
And it's unreasonable to think that the majority of people that are working in any setting might have a fertile place to train their mind during the rhythm of business, and to do it in a very simple way. I mean, I'm being cryptic just a bit here because I'm too early to talk about it.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited about what the future of leadership could look like.
It's funny you say that because when you were mentioning certain things that you pay attention to and look at with an employee, that they maybe have some physical ailments going on, what's stopping them from getting the work done and being motivated. I'm a pretty progressive-minded person. And when you were saying that old school mentality that's been drilled in my head was like, back in the days, you just get fired, you don't get it done. We're not looking at how physically what's going on with you. I don't care. Get this done. You're getting paid for it. So it's so funny that that's ingrained in our minds still when we hear that, and trying to find a new way to motivate people and a new way to work and a new way to lead.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that the job in a work setting, we are making a handshake. Usually it's invisible. And that handshake is, I'm going to bet on you and you're going to bet on me. Together, we're going to get something done. And there's resources available as long as we're getting it done. But if I can't get it done or you can't get it done, then there's not a place for you here.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about like if you can't get the numbers done in a week or 2 months or 3 months, like there's usually some room here, but you've got to get the job done. Like that's even if you've got some struggles. Now the businesses that have the luxury of creating space for people that are struggling in A, B, and C ways, I love that they have such resources that they can do that. That is the humane, right thing to do. And I want to build a company like that can do that for people.
Yeah.
Most companies are pretty lean and barely getting it done. And so it really does require, this is why entrepreneurs or leaders in small companies are so stressed, because they're looking at the P&L. They're looking at like, what?
Yeah.
You took, 62 minutes for lunch or whatever, like, because the P&Ls for most companies are pretty tight. Most companies go out of business pretty quickly. And so, I just have a tremendous regard for companies that have been able to find the right culture where people can be their very best. And it's not an always on, get it done every minute of your life, execute at the highest level. We all need to have high ground.
Yeah.
The rapids of life are real. And we all need to know how to have a sense of high ground where we can dry off, get out of the rapids, get a little sun on our back and be like, okay, hold on, this is good. And companies that can do that can really afford to do that. That's a special type of company. I love those.
And this may be a really ridiculously tough question to ask you, but how, for that individual out there listening and hearing this, right? And them saying to themselves, well, man, I want to work for a company that has resources that can, assist me when I need the assistance. I don't want to work for a lean company that's going to trip that I took 5 extra seconds, for my lunch or this, that, and the other.
Yeah, right.
How do I find that? Because it seems to me like you have to be of a certain ilk to be able to work for a company that companies usually that have those resources are companies that are looking for highly qualified individuals.
Oh yeah, it's on.
So
they've done something very special to have those resources.
Yeah,
like when you go work for a large corporation, most people struggle with the autonomy piece because it's matrixed. There's lots of decision makers. There's processes put in place. There's double checking, and so you have some luxury that we're talking about of. Maybe there's a 401k, maybe there's time off, maybe there's this, that, and there's some really wonderful things that are taken care of. So there's trades. And I think about entrepreneurship is that you do need to have an appreciation for cold air on your skin. And that's just a little bit different. There's more responsibility, there's more autonomy, there's more electricity, there's more of an upside. You're part of something that tends to be more purpose-based and feels special because you're right next to it. And so there's just trade-offs. And when you know yourself, you know which environments feel better for you or better for you. I think that's it. Most of these questions that you and I wrestle with will start with work from the inside out.
Yeah.
Know who you are, and that gives you a chance to know somebody else.
And that's so crazy you just said that, because when you were talking, I was thinking to myself, when I was young, and I'm not going to say any companies' names. I love all companies. And I would get a job at a certain company that's, and I'd get interviewed by that manager or assistant manager. I knew immediately, like, he's going to be a problem, or she's going to be a problem for me, right? And 10 times out of 10, they were that problem for me.
How about it?
But actually,
So that speaks to your intuition?
Well, no, it speaks to actually my problem, because you said you have to know yourself and know who you are and know what's the right fit for you, right? And not knowing that and going in and saying you work for Burger World, right?
Couldn't be a king in there, right? Couldn't be a king.
How politically correct am I? Burger World.
Oh my God. Yeah.
You get just what I'm saying.
Wait, you know what? Burger King hasn't. You're right. That hasn't been canceled, has it?
No, they haven't.
Burger Queen.
Yeah, Burger Queen, Burger World, Burger
Worlds,
Prince.
Burger Prince, Princess. That's so good.
Oh my God.
How do you manage the cancel culture? Like how does that impact your life at all? Or
I'd like to say that it doesn't, but I think there's a small percentage of it that does, because
I was hoping you were saying not at all, because I see you as like this free spirit. It's just like
this just recently happened. Let me tell you, this is a great question. This just recently happened. Before I was a free spirit, like, I'm gonna do what the fuck I want to do. I'm gonna kneel.
It doesn't sound free. It sounds very angry, but yeah, okay, good.
Angrily
get
free.
to freedom. Yeah, great. Okay, yeah, good.
Two are mutually angrily free. But someone said to me, my mom used to say this to me all the time, and I completely forgot it, and then someone else said it to me and just brought it right back to the front of my head. My mom used to say, you have to kiss ass before you can kick it, all the time. And, I left that old saying behind and just became angrily free O'Neal. Like, I'll do what I want to do. Yeah. But someone said, if they see you coming, right? Let's just say cancel culture is that. Let's just say I speak my mind, and I say what I want to say, and I do what I want to do. But there's certain things I want to get done. There's certain things that I want to implement. I've already showed my cards. I've already shown my hand. And when I show that, then here comes cancel culture or whatever powers that be. They can put a ceiling over my head and stop me from getting to the level that I want to get to, as opposed to, okay, I'm going to acknowledge this cancel culture or whatever this thing is. I'm going to know that it's an entity that can stop me from getting to my bottom line and getting things done. So I have to respect it now, right? Because I want to get things done. So I no longer look at it like, oh man, I can't go do it my way. I'm gonna do it this way. Now I look at it like, okay, I'm gonna do this because it's gonna afford me the ability to do bigger things that I want to do. And now that I've applied that to my life and to my work, now I think about all the people that are in powerful positions that I've looked at in the past and that I've judged harshly and said, man, you got a voice. How come you're not speaking up? How can you have a voice and let all these things, how can you, I don't know what they're doing. For all I know, they could be amassing and attaining all this ability and power and whatnot to make a change. They could be making changes. They could be like Bruce Wayne, right? No one knew Bruce Wayne was Batman, but he was out there swinging around, busting up criminals and stuff like that, right?
That's cool.
So I'm trying to get my Bruce Wayne on.
So you want to be covert?
I want to be covert, but the problem is one thing. I just told the world
that I'm covert. I am Bruce Wayne.
Just I guess I messed that up.
In a very fun sweater. You in sweaters? It's so good.
Yeah, this was made for me specially. I'm so happy about that.
This was specially made for you.
Yeah. It's a Hana Furka sweater.
What does that mean?
A Hana Furka is an actual woman that makes these sweaters that just go over your hands, and like I love anime. So I want her to make me a sweater like Naruto. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, right. It's amazing.
Where do we support her? Is this like a big house label, or is this
no? This is a small independent label, Hana Furka, out of Seattle. She's amazing.
Furka spelled
F-U-R-C-A.
F-U-R-C-A.
F-U-R-C-A. Did I spell that right?
Hana
Furka. Yeah, she's amazing, and she made it exactly to my specification. She cropped the waist, and yeah, I'm gonna wear this every day. And I'm not even kidding. It's taking the place of my Cookie Monster sweater.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. I can get you one too. So.
Hana Furka.
Yeah, get you a Hana Furka.
No, I was saying it correctly.
No, I'm saying
yeah.
I just laughed because I'd love to see you in one.
Yeah. Oh, that was laughter of seeing me in a sweater.
No, I wasn't laughing at you.
No, you just did.
I was laughing with you. It's a difference.
I'm not gonna get sucked in. I
love this fiery Dr. Mike. All right, let's go into the next question.
By the way, I do love sweaters.
Do you?
Yeah, I really appreciate them. So when I do comment on them, like I like sweater spirit.
Do you want a sweater?
Yeah, maybe we're gonna.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk to them.
I'm gonna make that happen for you.
Yeah, good.
Okay. I'm gonna take this out as my personal projects. You just said this, so you have to have a sweater now.
I think if you were to go into my closet, there'd be there's one item right now that's not blue, black, or gray. It's kind of sad.
Why?
It's a brown. It was just given to me. It's one brown hoodie that my wife, and I was like, brown? Kind of pale for brown. And she's like, Mike, everything is blue, black, or gray. It's time.
Yeah, it's time to change it up. I see you as like a brown and orange type of guy.
No.
No?
No. Blue, black or I have a uniform. It's blue, black, or gray.
And you know what? I'm not even gonna knock that because I
Yeah.
like uniforms. So I respect that. So maybe a blue, black, or gray sweater, or all three mixed together.
I did a speaking tour. It was like 56 keynotes in a year. It was ridiculous. Like it was not healthy. And I had 6 sweaters, all the same sweaters.
Mm-hmm.
6 of them were blue, same cut. 6 of them were black, same cut.
Yeah.
And 6, like, so I wouldn't have to think. I had the same type of jeans.
Yeah.
And so I would just, whichever ones were clean,
Yeah.
those are the ones, and I would just pack the same. So I would not have to think about it at all.
Okay, you know what? Listen, and I'm not just saying this. I agree with you.
You don't look like you agree. Like every time I see you, you're extravagantly well put together, like in the wonderfully flamboyant, colorful way that I am. There's some jealousy that's happening.
First of all, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Secondly, I'm going to be 100% honest with you, and I'm not making this up.
Mm.
This advice came to me from a good friend of mine who's considered, he's a fashion icon. His name is Nick Wooster. You've seen him before. He's an icon. He told me, and I asked him questions because I was like, oh, I'm getting a chance to just pick his brains. I'm going to ask him all sorts of questions. And he was like, listen, a nice classic white t-shirt and some nice trousers will just shut it down every day.
Yeah.
And
I love
that is what I wear most of the time. I wear Dickies and a crisp white vintage t-shirt. And I wear that 5 days a week.
How much are t-shirts now? I needed a white t-shirt the other day, and I ordered one. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I'm not talking like what kind of t-shirts?
Like a white t-shirt?
Yeah, like they're,
well, it depends.
like a t-shirt's like really expensive. I was blown away. Like
Where'd you go for a t-shirt?
I don't want to say the place. It wasn't Fruit of the Loom.
Oh, okay. I'm going to tell you where I go.
Mm.
All right. I like swap meets. I like flea markets.
Mm.
I love the flea markets in LA. Obviously, you know, the Rose Bowl. You can get nice vintage tees from the 70s, from the 50s. You can get.
Oh, so you go vintage?
I go vintage. Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing touches my skin but vintage t-shirts.
Oh my God.
My skin is, I don't wear.
All right, perfect. We go from like Horizon 3 leadership to nothing touches my skin.
There's a mixture of the two. I put on a vintage white t-shirt, then I go into Horizon 3 leadership. Yeah.
Inspired by me. Yes. Inspiring to me, I should say.
Oh my God. All right. The next question is by Ginny Song. Ginny says, what can be a way to turn grounded optimism into action? I understand we can train optimism as a way of thinking, and I like the exercises, yes, and which you suggested. However, I feel that words based on grounded optimism may lose their strengths if there are no actions. What can be a way to help people to take their positive thinking into action?
She's kind of pointing to right thought, right actions from the eightfold from Buddhism. And you know, right thought, right actions. When you have the right thoughts, I'll see if I can stitch this around to her. It's like the exercise of just pretending to have a right thought likely doesn't have the follow-on right action. And so there is a difference. Like when you have the right thought, and not right according to somebody else, but it is lined up, you know, towards a purpose, the actions follow. Optimism, let's go back to let's break the question apart a little bit. She was talking about an exercise, the power of comma. It was a way that we were training optimism. So optimism is this fundamental belief that something good's going to take place. And that is a trainable skill. That is something that we develop. Or by default, I think more people are pessimistic, which is also a learned lens, a learned skill. Optimism and pessimism are the lenses through which you see your future. A fundamental belief it's going to work out, or a fundamental belief it's not going to work out. Again, they're learned. So the comma and is a way to train optimism at scale. So when you're speaking out loud to a team, let's bring it back to leadership, modern leadership. You say the very hard truth of something. You say the difficult condition that the company is in. Let's say that there's a reduction in force taking place, like 5% reduction in force. And for whatever reason, your unique team is not being affected. So you would say something like, this is really hard that the company is going through a reduction of force, comma, and we're going to figure this out together. So you're inserting an optimism tag. So you address the hardship or the thing that is difficult so that, for one, you're speaking truth to what is actually a condition, and you're letting everyone else know that you see it. You're not up in the clouds in some positivity land. And then comma, insert optimism tag. So that type of mechanism to use your thoughts and your language is really an important way to train optimism at scale. I think it's an important way to think about training optimism at scale. Now, the question is about like, how do you get it to right action? The whole purpose of thoughts for the most part are to influence both emotions and behaviors. So the way that cognitive behavioral training tends to think about things is that we've got thoughts and we've got behaviors and we've got emotions. And they all work in a harmony, if you will. The way that most of us would appreciate the simplicity of the interaction of those three is that thoughts tend to trigger emotions. Emotions can trigger thoughts. I'm pointing to Antonio Damasio's work out of USC, but let's just go thoughts. Thoughts trigger emotions, and thoughts and emotions together trigger behaviors or influence behaviors. So for the most part, when you have the quote unquote right thoughts, there's going to be some emotional component to it at some level, whether you're aware or not. And the together of those two do influence behavior. So I'm getting down into the weeds a little bit. And if we make it really simple, it's right thoughts create right actions. And most right thoughts are not pessimistic. They are optimistic. And so I'd say keep practicing. And the optimistic thought, if it's kind of up in the clouds and ungrounded, it's not really going to create the actions that you want. So make it real, bring it down. And then those types of thoughts do create some sort of inspiration. And inspiration from the Latin means to breathe life into, in spiritu. Literally, when you breathe life into something through a thought, action takes place. Yeah. And so, how about it? I don't know if that's complicated or unclear, because that is a difficult question to wrestle with.
So, are you saying it can be a repetitive thing? For example, if my thoughts affect my emotions, and my emotions and thoughts create this action and whatnot. Let's say I'm in a situation and I don't believe what I'm saying, right? I'm saying it to my team, I'm saying it to myself, but I don't believe it. Through being repetitive, can you find some?
I don't buy it.
Yeah.
Do you? If you say some people, I don't buy it. Do you buy it?
I truly, to be honest with you, I truly do not know, because I've been in situations where I've tried to repeat it to myself because I'm like, if I say it enough, it'll become real.
Yeah.
Right. If I said it, but
I just think I can, you and we can bullshit other people. We could say something to somebody else and it not be real, but kind of play it. And eventually they're going to find out.
Yeah.
Right. Like, because you can't keep that facade up, for an enduring relationship. But I know when I'm doing it to myself.
Yes. Yeah.
I know. I don't know a way to outfake myself.
Yeah.
And so I know that I'm full of shit right now. And so I don't think so. I think that the fake it till you make it thing feels really corrupt.
Yeah.
And that idea of say your affirmations, I don't like that. That science isn't great there. And please, if somebody's got a counterpoint, let me know. But like saying it over and over again might create some rehearsal and some familiarity with the thought, and it's more available because it's like closer to the surface. But as soon as it's chin checked, it kind of all falls apart.
Yeah.
And so I like get down into the bedrock of it. Like, what do you really believe about your future? Get down with that. Like, get your arms around that. Get real with what do you really believe is possible if you put together the right type of work, the right type of team, the right type of resources. What could happen? And when you do that work and you can really find something, I don't know, the next phase feels like it's kind of like what is that game? The Pachinko? No, that's definitely not it.
that's a casino.
Yeah, that's where I was going, right? The Price is Right. The tumbler, it just kind of falls into place.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That analogy is not going to really hold up, but I was close.
No, I was close. It's so funny. You made me think of that when we just having this conversation about you can't fake yourself. You can't fake it to yourself.
Yeah.
I remember being in college and going to this church, and in church they speak in tongues, and that's supposed to be evidence of the Holy Spirit and whatnot. And I never knew anything about that.
You started speaking in tongues. You were it was gibberish though, wasn't it? No, you didn't.
So I was looking around and everybody was like, I was like, and I was like, what the hell am I doing?
What am I
Everyone
doing?
else is doing it. And I did it for years. I'd be like, and one day I was like, man, the Holy Spirit ain't talking to you.
That is hilarious. For years you said?
Yes.
Oh, I
years.
love your determination.
Because I was like, the Holy Spirit will start talking to me. Don't cancel me, church people. Oh, see, there's my cancel culture effect right there.
There it is. Yeah.
It is embarrassing. And I can say this now. It is truly embarrassing when you decide to look in the mirror and face your fakeness. It's embarrassing. It's equivalent to having a room full of people looking at you, laughing at you, saying, at least for me, that you were never being real with yourself and we saw through you. The day I stopped doing that, I felt this immense shame. And I was like, why was I faking why was I doing that? And sometimes I think I stuck with it for those years because I didn't want to face that shame.
That's it.
So
I recognize it in me. It's I'll bring it back to the book I just wrote, The First Rule of Mastery. Stop worrying about what people think of you. Like the name FOPO, fear of people's opinions, is kind of that driver. I totally recognize it. And there's something so attractive when somebody's thoughts, words, and actions line up.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a fun story. We ought to play the clip from Marshawn Lynch, one of the greatest running backs in the NFL, an absolute handful.
Yeah.
In every sense of the word. He is really authentic. Marshawn is Marshawn, an N of one. I said, how do you do it? Maybe we play the clip, but in essence, he says, I stripped myself down in front of a mirror and I looked at myself. Who am I? And I had the conversation with myself, butt naked in front of the mirror. Who am I? And there's a little bit more tonality to it when he says it, but that idea of just doing the honest work, like who am I? What are my first principles? What are my beliefs? What are the right thoughts? What are the right actions? Do I fit in to a particular religion or am I not? Like what is right, according to the way that I'm trying to make sense of the world right now. And look, most people are connected to a religion. It's doing incredible good for a lot of people. I don't know if Marshawn is or not. I don't know that. And then I've got another Marshawn story is that, I'll never tell stories from a locker room perspective, but we're on the sidelines and it was a brutal game. It was like, I don't know what it's like to put pads and a helmet on and have a 300-pounder trying to take my head off. But I have incredible respect for the athleticism, the agility, for the whole thing that's taking place out there. And it was a brutal game. Injuries happening. People are like, you could see it in our eyes, like, oh yeah, this one's different. It was like inches on inches on inches, and it was just, again, I don't know another word than brutal. So it was, we're about 12 minutes to go in the fourth quarter and we were down by like 5 points. And so he walked by about 6 of us and he popped a handful of seeds in his mouth, sunflower seeds. And so he kind of moves them to one side of his mouth and he says, anyone want to go to the front with me? And he kind of just took another 3-4 steps and spit out a bunch of seeds. And I look around to the athletes that were next to me and they're like, hell yeah, like let's go to the front. And so when somebody has fully embodied their thoughts, their words, and they're going to back it up with their actions, it is so electric to be around those folks. They're very, very powerful people when you can line up thoughts, words, and actions. And to do that, especially in environments that are hard to do it, those people are pretty rare.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of practice to have the right, quote unquote, thoughts. And those thoughts don't have to be a tough athlete going into a brutal game. Those thoughts can be of kindness, compassion, empathy, savviness, whatever kind of value that you're searching for. Those types of thoughts, they just compel the right actions. So I think, Marshawn Lynch, I appreciate you.
Yeah, that's a dope story. All right, our next question is from Linda. Image is so important in our culture. How do we balance the need to belong or look a certain way in being oneself?
I totally want to defer to you. Like, I don't, how would you answer this?
I automatically look at the group. I've always been counterculture because I know that, the group never lasts that long. They're fads. I've always viewed them as fads. And I personally, I hope this doesn't sound cocky, but I personally haven't been proven wrong yet, right? The cool people in junior high aren't the cool people in high school. The cool people in high school aren't the cool people in college, and so forth and so on. So since none of them last long, I just never followed any group. I never joined a fraternity. I never hung with a clique of people. I just don't believe in that, right? So I think there's a special thing in being alone and venturing into things alone. And I have found by doing that, people are drawn to you. And gosh, I hope this doesn't sound cocky, but I think you get your pick of the litter. You get to choose who you want to be friends with.
When? Like always?
When you choose to be alone, when you choose to, it's kind of like you have a group of friends and all of them are always talking. They're always talking. And you have one guy that never talks, right? One person that never talks. The minute that person opens their mouth, everyone is going to shut up and listen to that person. Because they're like, oh, wait a minute, you never talk. You never do what we normally do. What do you have to say? Even if he's saying something that is just completely ridiculous, right? So I've practiced it, I've experimented with it, and it's always been that way for me.
Which is the way?
Just going at things by myself, never just being an individual, dressing a certain way, walking a certain way, talking a certain way. Sometimes to my detriment, right? Because sometimes, I remember you and I had a conversation about this. Sometimes you wear it on your sleeve, and then that's your calling card that, hey, you guys are going left, I'm gonna go right, even though there's a cliff over there. I'm gonna fall over that cliff.
Yeah.
So sometimes I practice it to my detriment, but for the most part, I've found it's been very successful for me. So I would think, and I've been told by a certain person that I don't have empathy for people that have a difficult time, finding their individuality and, being oneself. But to me, it's a no-brainer because it's worked so many times. So I'm like, why aren't you doing this? Because it's worked. I'm telling you, it works.
And what is it?
Just choosing to do things a different way, never going with the group, finding yourself, finding your voice, listening to your voice. If that means, sitting by yourself.
So you answered that question about identity more than image? Like, so when you hear image, you think about identity?
I think about identity.
There you go.
Yeah, I think about it immediately. Yeah.
What was the question again?
It was, image is so important in our culture. How do we balance the need to belong or look a certain way in being oneself?
In being oneself, yeah. When I think of image, I think of like what somebody else is viewing, which then that becomes the noisy part of the question. And so if I'm interested in how somebody else is going to view me, then I'm already in a deleveraged, I'm already kind of in the world of noise. I'm trying to get to the signal. And so that phrase, you've heard it before, game recognizes game. Yeah. And that's a statement that holds true in the space of mastery. Like the language of mastery is much more about skill than it is about image. And so that's where I was going, is that I don't even know how to answer it. That's why I said, like, I defer to you on it, because I'm so much more interested in skill. And I will just it's natural that you have a particular idea of what attractiveness looks like. There is some universality about attractiveness. And we do like to be around attractive people for whatever weird reasons in our genetic coding, the golden ratio. And so there is a kind of some universality. However, whatever you find to be attractive, you will want to be around those types of folks. And so if people know what you find to be attractive, they might create an image to be liked by you.
Yeah.
That noise becomes temporary for the most part. And if you get right underneath of it, you are pointing to identity, which I love. And then the other piece that I'll point to is skill. So I don't know, you look any way you kind of want, but if you've got a radical skill about you, that's pretty attractive to me. That's
on.
Yeah, that like, So identity, radical skill, know who you are, invest in refining a craft, whatever that is. And then that becomes so signal based that the image, I don't know, it almost kind of takes care of itself.
I agree 100%. There's been countless times I've met people. Gosh, I'm gonna out myself when I say this. That I've met people, I'm like, oh man, you look a certain type of way. And then I discover the skill they have. It completely changes my image of them. And I'm like, wow.
It is like there's something wonderful about, like, lovingly so. Like when you watch somebody do something, and let's say that you in physical form, you find it to be unattractive or repulsive or ugly or whatever criticalness there. But when you see them in their thing doing it, and you go, oh my God, that is amazing.
Yeah.
That's why I love the show The Voice, the TV show The Voice.
Yeah.
And so everyone's got their back turned, and all you hear is the art.
Yeah.
And then so you've got these highly tuned listeners, the judges, if you will. They're highly tuned, and they're listening for just a certain type of break or a certain type of run, and they go, oh, and they turn around, and then they get to see the image.
Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you, that's how I want to design my life. But I'm a visual creature as well.
Yeah.
And so for me, I want to be more invested in identity and skill as opposed to image. All that being said is, like, we all have something we're portraying.
Yeah.
So
Dr. Mike, I gotta say this, man. I like this version of you.
Oh, you do?
I like this.
Yeah.
This was great. This was great.
Yeah.
I know I may sound redundant, but man, I look forward to these days.
Ditto.
I do, yeah.
Ditto. Thank you. I got to go get a sweater now.
I
would like to get a sweater.
Trip.
Yes.
I got you on the Hanna-Furka joint. I got you.
Yeah, let's put a link in, because it's fun to support people that are
awesome.
of the arts.
Awesome.
So we'll put a link in there.
I'm sure I'll greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, cool. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you as well.
All right, take care.
Take care.